helping to foster so many important issues in our community. May I just say that our tour, the question was asked and did not answer. The fee has not gone up, and it's $275 for 2 days. This includes transportation and 2 wonderful meals per day. So if you count that up, and yes, the hotel of all things. So these are things that we're trying to do. $225 for students, and we're moving right along. This is the 50th anniversary for Birmingham. Going through there is meaningful, and of course, Marion, where we put up a monument for Coretta Scott King, Mount Tabor Church, where she attended church and school, and then on to Marion. And I have a particular interest in fostering Marion, Alabama, because all that you hear about is self.
Right.
But it started in Marion.
That's right.
Jimmy Lee Jackson was shot in Marion, and we're emphasizing gun violence as we move along this time. Stop gun violence. It was gun violence that shot Jimmy Lee Jackson, Viola Uzo, and people along the way, where we'll be stopping and commemorating them. Mrs. Uzo's daughter comes and goes with us every year on the bus, and it's quite an experience. Rosa Parks Award and so forth. And now, it's my distinct privilege to introduce a friend, Tandi Gcabashe, was a member of our church. When we came to Atlanta, my husband pastored Central United Methodist Church on Mitchell Street. Tandi and her family were there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I organized SCLC Women, she actively became a very energetic head of the International Task Force for years and years, and we marched and worked together, working for apartheid and other things. And her daughter, Namkla, though she was younger, she was just as steadfast as her mother, so that's commendable. Saying all that, it's a wonderful privilege to see you again, Tandi. Her father was the Nobel Peace Prize Chief Albert Luthuli of Africa first. And we cannot forget that history connected with her. But Tandi has been so actively involved in the anti-apartheid movement all over the United States and Africa, and went into exile in Africa, and then was a member of the ANC, and so many, the American Friends Committee, and so many wonderful efforts. Then she was made ambassador to Venezuela, and now she's retired from that and is going around the country speaking and adding all that she can to her African experience. I'm so delighted to present to you my friend, Tandi Gcabashe. Should I speak?
As long as you want to.
Carte blanche. I'm so very delighted to be here amongst my friends, brothers and sisters. I'm back home. Atlanta is my second home, having been born in South Africa. Came here as an exile, and I was here for 26 years. So Atlanta is a place where I really matured as a woman, politically, spiritually, under the tutelage of Mrs. Lowery and Dr. Lowery. And I thank you very much for that. So here is where I became a full woman.
All right.
And my children call Atlanta their first home, my second home. Because when I arrived here, my eldest, I've got 4, was 6 years, the second 4 years, third 2 years, and the fourth was 6 months. So my hands were full as a parent. And I had a husband who is a typical African, not well trained in domestic. So anyway, I'm back here and I'm really very, very delighted. I have to say that I'm here sponsored by a man I call my youngest brother, sitting over there, Mary Goodland. He's a friend of my son, Pagama, and he's frequented South Africa visiting. And so this was his brainchild, that why don't you come to the US and speak, update people about what is happening post-apartheid. So that becomes my topic, post-apartheid. First, I have to say again, my other first is that Nelson Mandela visited here in 1991, and he thanked all of you for the support that you gave to our struggle. But I will again thank you on my own behalf, because I know just how much you sacrificed for the freedom of South Africa. And I'm not going to talk, as I do to some other groups, about what was apartheid. How did you win the struggle against apartheid? Because you were all part of that. It could not have happened without you. But what I'm going to do very briefly, is just to apprise you of what happened post-apartheid. I'll try and be brief. I will start by saying that the gift you gave to South Africa is invaluable, and that was the unconditional universal franchise, the right to vote.
All right.
You know, these issues, what we suffer from worldwide, is so interconnected. You were just talking about your voting rights. Now, fortunately for us in South Africa, this is one aspect that is not threatened yet by the new government. Unlike what happens in governance in most African countries, that we have had 3 free and fair elections where there was no violence, there was no contention to the result of the vote. And South Africa has had 3 smooth, democratic, free and fair. And I'm very happy to report that to you, because you helped us attain that. Now, in this democracy, it started in 1994 with the vote that I referred to. And you saw, I'll start off by Nelson Mandela taking his first few steps out of Portsmouth prison. That was a day to watch. That was a day to celebrate. I know that some of the people who were very close to me in the anti-apartheid movement, we organized a party to celebrate. And we watched on TV as Nelson and Winnie took their first steps to freedom. It's a day we will never forget. The other day I will never forget was when some 20 people from Atlanta and the southeast region traveled with me to South Africa to witness, to monitor the elections. Some of you, I know for sure, Heather was there, and a few other people from the region. that was really an experience to remember. Now, Nelson Mandela became the first president. So what I'm going to do really, I'm going to give you a report about 3 presidents that we have elected since 1994, a very brief report. And that will give you some kind of overview about what is happening in the country politically. Nelson Mandela was elected in 1994, and he retired. He did not want to become a president for life, as happens in other places. So he retired after 1999. Our term for service as president is 5 years. He retired in 1999. What did Nelson achieve? Nelson was our first black president, very much loved, very much revered. He became really the iconic godfather of the nation. His main aim was to reconcile the nation. As you will remember, South Africa had been very divided under apartheid. I won't go into that history. I think most of you know about it. And so his aim was to unite the people, reconciliation. And he did this in a very dignified and able manner. He was much loved, as I said, by both black and whites, everybody. And he tried also to create some kind of common cause for all of us to work together. Now, how he has succeeded in that, I'm not too sure. White South Africans, not all of them, are still very resistant to change. They will not support transformation. But Nelson established what he called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, TRC, that was headed by Bishop Tutu. The commission was supposed to encourage the perpetrators of apartheid to come clean, to confess what they did during apartheid, to avoid prosecution and jail time. A lot of them came forward. Some of the stories that came out of that were very painful and very wrenching. I think you saw Bishop Tutu cry on stage, on the platform at one time. And we had to have psychologists around to console the families of the victims of apartheid. It was very, very touching. Not everybody came forward, and I don't think that because they didn't come forward, they were prosecuted. For instance, an ex-president of apartheid, Botha, he refused to confess. He said he would not be a party to the Truth and Reconciliation. And so the other thing that Nelson did was to come up with a policy for the ANC as to how we're going to deal with all the damage that had been done by apartheid, politically and otherwise. So he established the policy that we called the RDP, and that was a Reconstruction and Development Program, RDP. The government was going to provide those who could not afford housing, health, and education free of charge, and electrification of their homes. And so that program was implemented, and it worked very well. The ANC, if there is credit that you can give to the ANC government, it was that program of RDP. The houses may not have been of such good quality, but they were not shacks. And a lot of people appreciated them having. Nelson Mandela, our icon. Then from 1999 to 2004, Thabo Mbeki became president of South Africa, and he served 2 terms up to, what is that arithmetic? 2009, 5 more years, to 2009. 2009. Now, Thabo Mbeki is not someone who was new in government. He was very active in exile. He worked under Oliver Tambo, that some of you may remember here. And he had been groomed by Oliver Tambo to become next president after Nelson Mandela. You know, it is the tradition of the ANC to always make sure that the next takeover of government, of responsibility, is well prepared and groomed. So Thabo took over. In fact, before he became president, he was the deputy president under Nelson Mandela. And he virtually ran government. He's the one who really saw to it that government was well established, whilst Nelson Mandela was the daddy, the papa of everybody in the nation, and was doing reconciliation. Now, Thabo Mbeki is, I can describe him as an intellectual, technocrat. He's the one who dismantled apartheid laws and institutions and policies and established, renewed the framework for the new democratic South Africa. He's the one who really was responsible for that, and we give him that credit. When he was president, let me describe his character first a little bit. He was this intellectual who failed really to communicate with ordinary people very well. He was cold. People felt that he was cold and aloof from them, but very brilliant, very brilliant. When he was president, he continued the RDP of Nelson Mandela as a socio-economic policy, but he also introduced another policy that is called GEAR. GEAR. And GEAR is what? Growth, employment, and reconstruction. GEAR. The GEAR policy is macroeconomic, and really people didn't like it, particularly COSATU, the union that is very strong in South Africa. That union, if some of you will remember, was very active during apartheid days in support of the ANC. And up to this day, it remains as one of the allies of the ANC, a strong ally. So the unions were very unhappy because what this macroeconomic policy did was to privatize. There was a lot of privatization of whatever, the railways, the whatever assets the government had before. Although South Africa had called itself democratic and very Western, but it was very socialist. A lot of businesses and institutions belonged to the government. So Thabo is the one who privatized them, a very unpopular move. But the economy grew under Thabo. Of course, with privatization, income was coming in. He was also very active, starting from Mandela actually, to invite outside investors, direct investments from our foreign investment into South Africa. And I remember one time the economy grew by 5.1%, which was very good, especially considering that you'll remember with the sanctions that we had called for, the South African economy plummeted, and it went